Well, Chris, after those two quick fire games, have you had a chance to sort of look back on them? Is 3 unbeaten and 2 clean sheets in a row? Have you been able to look at the positives more?
Yeah, definitely. We've had a good chat with the players, and we set sort of target to ourselves before that period, and we're not far off that. I think the context of the game always gives you that sort of mood after a game, doesn't it? But when you take stock of the actual target beforehand, we're not far away.
And in terms of that game, it was of course a tough day for Malachi Linton. I imagine you've had a chat with him. How has he sort of coped with that, and has he been raring to go in training? Because after the miss, he was still looking sharp.
He's absolutely fine. He knows it's one where next time he'll concentrate on hitting the target, no doubt about that. But the fact that, as you rightly say, he didn't shrink and he still wanted to run in behind and show for the ball and do the things we ask him to. He made a good run for the penalty, tried to mix his game up instead of coming to the ball, which we need to do a bit more of. So, yeah, it's a learning curve for everybody, that's for sure. But I'll never criticise a player for having the bravery to go up and step up and take a penalty. And it's just disappointing because we wanted all 3 points.
And in terms of your squad, is Sam Pearson going to be available for Saturday, and how's Lawson Diath doing?
Sam's trained today, so fingers crossed he'll be available. I can't give any guarantees on that yet. Just got to see how he reacts to training today. The same with Lawson, took part in a little bit of training today, so he'll be close. I'm not sure how close, but he's doing everything in his power to be fit because, like all the lads, they trained brilliantly today. They were fresh, they were ready to go. So that was fantastic for us to see as staff. And Lawce is definitely giving himself the best possible chance to be available.
Good news. And you sort of said before the game that you didn't want to make too many changes because you had a few niggles as well. But overall, the 2 games in 3 days, are you happy with how your squad has recovered?
Yeah, it's that territory that all of us understand in this league, don't we? That not many footballers have to contend with. So we escaped a little bit. There's a couple of niggles in the squad that we're a little bit concerned about after that game on Monday. I tried to protect some players in the Saturday game to then play again on the Monday because some of these lads are important to us. And I said to them, you're going to have to go again. It was the same for Wealdstone, I might add. Lots of their players did the same, and they did, both games with 10 men. So hats off to them. They defended very well. We've got to focus now on another project, which is York. And that's what we're doing. And that's what we did this morning. And that's what we'll do tomorrow, because we want to perform well on Saturday. We want the fans to come and see us, and we want to get a decent result.
And just again on the squad, you've got 6 loans in, but only 1 was involved on Monday. Particularly Gravosti and Krask have struggled to get it into the squad. Are you sort of looking how you can bring them in, or looking at their futures? What's the sort of latest on the loans that we've got?
No, Matt is returning to Bolton. We've had a chat with player, with club. It's one of those. I think he's a very bright footballer, a really talented player and a fantastic lad. It just proved too difficult to get in with what we had in the building, and so I don't want to halt the lad's progress by playing regular football. So Matt has returned to Bolton with our best wishes. As I said, I had a good conversation with him about it. With Finlay, it's just a case of this sometimes happens in football. Again, I had a good conversation with the player and with Plymouth. With some positions, it does take longer, and it might be form, it might be injury, but having a fair old amount of defenders keeping fit at the moment, then he's just got to bide his time. He can play in numerous positions, but as I say, at the moment, it's a waiting game for him, but he's enjoying his training, he's working hard, and both club and player are happy.
And how much do they sort of learn from that? Because you seem to be very much the sort of manager that you're not just going to play them just because they're on loan at you. They've got to have the impact on the squad that you expect.
Yeah, every club knows that loan players to clubs. We've got a responsibility to try and help the lads still get better, and that's what we're doing with sessions every day. It's of course frustrating for a player. I understand that, but some of the lads are very young, and they're having these first experiences in football at this level of competitive football week in, week out. So it's a case of being patient. If it continued too long, then we'd address that, because we've got the care of the player to think about, definitely. But we're thinking about our strongest team on a Saturday, and that's how I've judged every game. And
it is transfer deadline day. Obviously doesn't apply to the National League, but there is talk on social media of Will Dorset joining the club. Not expecting you to confirm, because I know they may have gone a bit early, but are you looking for sort of extra bodies, and particularly in that midfield area?
We've had a lot of conversations with that one in particular. Yeah, it wouldn't be right of me to say anything on that one at the moment, but we are always looking, especially when you have perhaps some injury doubts, and then you become a little bit light. Got to get the balance right between making a knee-jerk reaction and getting someone in, and then those players that were borderline become fit, and then you have an extra body. That's the challenge. So we've got to get that right. There may be movement in the next day or two, but I won't know that until I find out the full fitness of the players that I've got already in my squad.
And turning attention to York, you mentioned it there, another home game. There's been some good performances at Hewish Park. Obviously got the first win at Hewish Park. How much do you want it to be a fortress this season?
Definitely, of course we do. We've I think in the main we've performed very well. We've come very close to beating Wrexham. I feel like the Barnet game was I won't say luck, because we can't talk about luck in this game. I think that we put our chances away, we win the game. We didn't, we lost. But the performance was very good, and we created a lot. The Dagenham game was a resilient one. We knew that we wanted to keep a clean sheet. We knew that we wanted to keep it tight, having conceded in a few games. So the boys carried that out very well. This Saturday, another challenge. They've got some threats of York. They had a great season last season. But if we do the things we're good at, if we stick to our game plan, if we concentrate out of possession, we will be fine. And I hope that the fans turn up for us again. They were brilliant on Saturday, and massive thanks to them. It was fantastic to see. Very noisy, just disappointed as the players were that we didn't send them home with those 3 points.
And you kind of touched on it there. They've got such momentum, haven't they, about coming back up to the National League. And again, it's another huge club in the National League that's got so much history. It just goes to show that the standard is just increasing every year. Yeah,
it's a good point. It's a great club, York, and they've got a real good setup there now. That looking at the playoff games, which I did at the end of last season in that league, and both leagues actually, North and South, really packed stadiums, lots of ambition, as so many teams in this league have, haven't they? It's so competitive. We look at what they've got, we look at the dangers, but as I say, when we've performed well, we've concentrated on ourselves, and that's going to be the message again. And it has been this morning, it will be again tomorrow in training. The lads have got to look at their game, look at what they're good at doing, and carry it out. We were close to some half decent passages of play, and you get a penalty on a Saturday, you feel you should win the game. On reflection, come away from it, and a point away at what was then the current leaders on paper is a good point, but the context of the game meant that we wanted more. So we have to capitalise on our home performance on Saturday and make sure that we look to get 3 points.
Well, huge good luck as ever for Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Chris, good morning or good afternoon now, isn't it? Yeah. last week we talked about the word frustration, and to a certain degree we got to mention it this morning. You're so close and yet you're so far, as it were. That is frustration in its worst form, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you've got to get over it quickly, haven't you? You've got to listen. If we weren't resilient and we weren't creating chances, then it would be immense frustration. At the moment, it's not getting what we should be getting. I think that's the way I'd describe it. And we've got to address that. We know that. In saying that, if you look at the last 3 games and you say a point away, 3 points at home, a point away, yeah, it's a reasonable period.
Yeah,
well, it's better than a reasonable period. But I think you're talking about the context of those games, AD, aren't you? In that you're a minute away from 3 points at Altrincham.
Yeah,
you're a penalty away from another 2 points at Wealdstone. The context is what we're talking about, and I get that. But I have to just keep reiterating to the players in the group: look, you're in a good space. You're showing good determination. You're listening, and that's what I can ask for with this group at the moment. That's all I can ask for, and they're doing it. And as I say, I looked at the reaction in training this morning, and it was one of bit between the teeth, ready to go again.
But we all know when you get a red card in a game, it's always more difficult sometimes for the team that's got 11 than the team that's got 10. So you've got to adapt and you've got to get around it. But when it comes so early, or relatively early, 10 minutes into the game, does that sort of throw an even bigger spanner in the works, in that you've got that much longer time to overcome that? That.
Yeah, I'm not sure, really. I think because they'd had that on the previous Saturday, they went straight back into that, and they formed that very cohesive, tight 2 banks of 4. We just didn't have the pace of passing to enable somebody to turn off, so it becomes a 1v1 or your wingers in. I don't think we moved the ball quick enough, and we didn't have that killer pass. In saying that, when Mal does do the double movement and running behind him, we get in, we work that chance and he gets his pen. Could have been a very different story. I have to credit the opposition. I must say, I have to credit them for their determination and their running and their willpower, because I thought they did it very, very well. And we didn't quite have that, as I say, that creativity to beat that. And that was a little bit disappointing. But I can't keep dwelling on that. In this game, you've got to react quickly, and you've got to look at your next game, and you've got to look at what you can do in that game. And that's what the focus has been today, and it will be tomorrow. Tough game, but another great challenge for us.
But having said that, it's a long season. We're only just into it. You've just played the team that was near enough top of the table. You've got a draw. It's not all doom and gloom by any means, is it? I mean,
Well, I'm not. No, I'm certainly not in doom and gloom, not at all. I think we're playing in a very competitive league. We have got to manage our own expectations. We know what we want to do as a football club within our group. We know how badly the fans want success. It's not a case of clicking your fingers. You've got to work hard. You've got to, some of the teams we're playing, I've just come into this building and we're looking at about, I don't know, I'm guessing between 35 and 40 days of training with a group of players. Some of the teams you're playing against have been together and grouped up for 2 years, and have got the same patterns, the same understandings. So this is in its infancy for me at the moment. I think we've shown signs of real promise at times. So no, by no means am I doom and gloom, and nor are the players, because they've, in most games, had spells of very good possession and created chances. We just want to go on a little run. We're 3 unbeaten, 2 draws and a win, but we want more wins, don't we? Because those 3 points just escalate right up that table tonight.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a very young team generally. do you think that the balance is right in terms of age? You've got, a lot of youngsters, but you've got fair few experienced players as well. Is it blending together well?
Yeah, that's for us to get the balance right. But we're in a market where, we're not going to go and get the top scorer in the National League. We've got to be realistic. We're trying our best to get very good players at the club that are either experienced and we can get through the door, or they are, in inverted commas, more of a project, but we hope they become a valuable asset to the club. So, this game's about winning games. There's no one more aware of that than me. But we're not going to go and get Wrexham's squad tomorrow. I think we have to be realistic with that. What we have got is a very good squad of footballers, and we have got to get that balance. You're right. You're 100% right on the pitch on a match day of those players that have seen it and done it, and in the heat of a game can make the right decisions. And then we've got the exuberance of people that can run and chase and press. So there's definitely a balance to be had. And as I say, at times we've been very close to getting that balance right. And that's what we've been working on since the game on Monday.
Well, now you've got York City, long trip again, I suppose. But I mean, it's home, isn't it? What am I talking about? But you mentioned Will Dawes. On the Stratford Town website, it says on there that he's actually joined Yeovil Town. Have they jumped the gun a little bit or what?
Well, all I can say from our perspective is until I'm happy to release anything about any player, I won't be saying anything on it. So, as I say, at the moment, I'm having conversations with several players and clubs, but at the moment, nothing will come out from our football club.
Okay, well, best of luck tomorrow or Saturday. And again, 3 points, got to be, isn't it?
Thank you. Cheers, AD.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. Yes.
Obviously, there's two themes at the minute with this team, isn't there? We're really resilient at the back, and we're drawing games and not being beaten. But the lack of creativity is something that keeps rearing its head. How do we go about that? Is it a change in personnel? Is it something we find in the training pitch? Is it a change in game plan?
Lack of creativity. Won the home game, Dagenham, and created a fair few chances. 15 chances in the home game before. So I don't think that's a lack of creativity. I think Saturday was. I don't think we could break down a team well enough. I don't think we created enough. You're absolutely spot on by far. We should still win the game. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Resilient, yeah. We're quite happy with that. We've got some very good defenders, but we have been working on that this morning about those perhaps different types of runs from our forwards and a bit more of a killer pass from midfield. Really trying to be a bit braver. We've got players that can keep the ball, but we sometimes want that perhaps a pass where you're trying to put someone on goal. You're trying to take a risk to cut through a defence. So, yeah, appreciate your point. But I think against Wrexham, we created a lot. Against Barnet, we created a lot. Against Dagenham, we created and won the game. So I've got to balance it, because my messages to the team before the Dagenham game, because we'd conceded in games where in pre-season we looked very resilient. I said, well, we're going back to that. We're going back to being resilient. I want to see clean sheets. And I have to hand it to them. They've given me that. But they've maybe taken away from the point that you're making, rightly so, where don't forget the game is about scoring goals. And we've tried to combine those two things this morning in our training session, and we'll continue to look at that tomorrow.
I think you're right with remaining positive on the whole. You got your first win at the weekend. You're 3 unbeaten. How has the progression been since you took over to where you are now?
Yeah, I think we're close to what we think we can get to. Oh, we have been in some periods of the games. That's how I reflect on it. It hasn't been a complete performance. All I can go on is what I see in the last period of 2 and 3 games where, they have stuck to that sort of task of being solid and having that solid base to work from. I think it hasn't helped that each week we've had one slight hiccup in the road where in the first week we lose Knowlesy, in the second week we lose one of our main defenders, in the third week Sam Pearson. It just has stopped that momentum and that perhaps consistency, which has been a bit frustrating. And I've still been trying to work out myself where we see ourselves with that front pairing or front three. So that's something that I've definitely been looking at. And there's no doubt about, we're all the same, aren't we? You watching it, me as the manager, we're waiting for that one player to show us, I'm the man, I'll stay in the team because I'm going to do this. And that's what I'm waiting for. And, I've said to the boys, and they're working the socks off, go back to your individual creativity when you're pinning a man, you feint one way, turn the other, and you go and do it. Don't pass it to someone else. I think that's what my message has been, that we've brought players into the club that we think they can do it. We don't want them waiting for somebody else to do it. So we're working on it. It's definitely a transition period for us, but I hope that the fans can see that we've got some real bright prospects in this football club, and I hope they can see that the players are working the socks off.
And I know there won't be much for obviously past this weekend, but with having 2 new players in last week, at least one possibly this week, is it good to have a free week next week to get your squad together and have a full training week with them?
Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. It's a good point. They've been absolutely fantastic in these 2 games as far as professionalism and preparing right. And they're absolutely, as all the players were across the league, absolutely shattered. It's a big ask, isn't it? 2 games in 3 days, no doubt about it. It takes a lot out of them. Next week is going to be good to have a look at our actual training schedule again, because that's where the lads will get in and out of the team. They probably don't realise that as much, but they've got to train well to get in this team at the moment. They've got to train well, because if they train well, they're going to do the business on a Saturday or a Tuesday or Monday or whenever we play. Really important period for us. I want us to capitalise on these 2 away performances, and we've got to make this home a fortress, no doubt about it in my mind.
Well,